How to play Arkham Horror the card game. This game is a cooperative campaign played over a series of scenarios which, when put together, create a storyline. At the start of a campaign, each player will choose a character and build a deck for them. So, Wendy Adams is one of the characters in the game. She has her stats across the top, her abilities, and then her health down the bottom. Every character will have both physical health and sanity. And then on the back, it'll explain the parameters for building the deck, including the deck size, which factions can be included and at what levels, and which cards are required. The required cards do not count towards the deck size, whereas the optional cards that you've had will count up towards the deck size. There are 5 factions in the game: Survivor, Rogue, Guardian, Seeker and Mystic, as well as neutral cards, and each character will have their own selection of these factions that they can include in their deck. So Wendy, for example, can take Survivor, Rogue and Neutral, whereas Roland can take Guardian, Seeker and Neutral. When you create your character for the first scenario in a campaign, you can only take level 0 cards. As the campaign continues, you'll gain experience, and you can spend that experience to level up the cards in your deck, purchase better cards of different levels, and generally improve what your character can and can't do. Once you've created your character's deck, you'll then need to set up the scenario. Each scenario will have its own set of rules in the campaign log, or in the campaign guide, which will start with a bit of a flavour and then talk you through the setup. So I've set up the first scenario for Night of the Zealot in the base game, or the core game. Each campaign on each scenario will have an act deck, which will have a requirement down here in order to advance the act on. So this one requires 2 clues per investigator, and that's what this symbol here down here means. And as soon as you've managed to collect the 2 clues per investigator and spend them, that's when you can advance the act on. You'll also have an agenda deck, which is what this one here looks like. The agenda deck, again, advances as you move through the scenario, and this advances every time it reaches this doom threshold. So in this scenario, as soon as you reach 3 doom, the agenda is going to advance. Alongside the act and the agenda decks, you will also have your reference card for the scenario. This will be different for each scenario that you play, and it will explain what some of the tokens that you might draw during the game will do. You will also create an encounter deck, which is generally made up of enemies. A variety of different enemies there. Not always enemies, sometimes it's various different effects that might impact on your sanity or maybe even your physical health. And you'll have to test various different skills in order to see if you can pass the test. You'll also start by setting up your locations. Locations always come in unrevealed, which is what this side looks like. They generally have some flavour text in the middle, and then when you move to the location, you'll flip it over and it will give you a side that looks like this. So the number in black here, that is the shroud value for the location, and the number over here is the number of clues in the room or location. So again, you've got that little investigator symbol next to the number, which means that it's 2 clues per investigator in this location, and you have to beat the shroud level in order to succeed. So we'll place, now that we're in that room, we'll place the clues on the location. You will also, when setting up the scenario, set up a bag. The bag doesn't come included in the game, unfortunately, but you do need to find either a opaque bag or a opaque cup or bowl or something like that, that you can put the tokens in so that you don't see what they are when you're drawing them. Whenever you do a skill test, you're going to be drawing a token out of the bag. And in order to get that bag set up, it will give you a set of symbols to include in your token bag, depending on the level that you want to complete the scenario at. So obviously easy, standard, hard or expert. So that's what these tokens here are all about. You'll get a variety of tokens. You'll get some negative tokens, some neutral tokens, some positive tokens. You'll get your symbols that your reference card relates to, which will tell you what they do. And you'll also, in every scenario, you'll gain a elder sign and a Cthulhu symbol. This Cthulhu symbol is an automatic fail. So whatever skill test that you try and complete, you will fail. And the elder sign will generally give you additional benefits and effects based on your character. So that's what this effect down the bottom means. Whenever you draw the elder sign on a skill test, it will give you this ability. And that's different for every player. So that's the scenario all set up. Let's get into how to actually play a turn. So each game scenario is made up of rounds, and each round has 4 phases. The mythos phase, the investigation phase, the enemy phase, and the upkeep phase. During the first round of the campaign, of the scenario even, you will skip the mythos phase. Then every round after the first, you will then complete the mythos phase. So as you can see, one doom is going to end up being placed on the agenda every single round. So the agenda can advance quite quickly if you don't get your act advancing as well. The investigation phase is where your players take turns. You get 3 actions per turn, which you can either, which on the back of this card tells you all the different actions that you can do. So you can draw a card or gain a resource. You can play an event or asset card from your hand. You can activate a arrow ability. You can move to a connecting location. You can investigate your current location. You can fight or engage an enemy at your location. You can evade an enemy engaged with you. That's your actions that you can take 3 of during your turn. And you can do any of those as many times as you want, up to your 3 action limit. In addition to those 3 actions, you can also take any actions with these symbols. So you can also activate these abilities. So for example, this one, when you complete a skill test, you can spend 1 resource and gain one of those 2, a +1 to one of those 2 symbols for that skill test. Just be warned, if you're engaged with an enemy and spend an action to do anything other than fight, evade, or activate a parlay or resign ability, each enemy engaged with you will make an attack of opportunity. So you can play cards. So say this is our starting hand. Ooh, not a great starting hand. I will probably have mulliganed that. You can choose cards to play to boost up your character. You can start moving if there's anywhere to move to, which currently in this scenario there isn't. You can start investigating. So in order to investigate, you go, right, I'm going to investigate. You will look at your character's book level or knowledge, which is this book symbol. So she's got 3 knowledge and she's got to beat 2 shroud. So she would draw a card out of the bag and she draws a -1. So she takes that number off of her skill level. That takes her down to 2. That equals the shroud in the room, so she is successful. So she would then take one of those clues and place it on her character. Her starting hand isn't all the best, so what she would probably do is draw a card and hope that she gets something useful that she might then be able to play on her next turn. Turn then passes over to the second player. Let's see, hopefully he's got something useful. Here we go. So he's got a gun. This is going to cost him 4 resources to play. He starts off with 5, so that's fine. So you're going to spend 1, 2, 3, 4 resources to play that card. So his gun, his .45 automatic, is out and ready to be played. So that's his first action. So if any enemy comes along, he's ready to take fire. Second action, he also has 3 knowledge. So he's going to have a go at investigating as well. So he will draw a clue out the bag. Oh, he draws the elder sign. So his elder sign effect means that he gets +1 for each clue on the location. So he's got 3 knowledge to start. +1, 2, 3. So he's got 6 skill against 2. So he definitely completes that one. So he gains one of those. And then he's going to gain a resource because he's getting a bit low on resources at the moment. So for his third action, he'll gain a resource. After that, it's then the enemy phase. There's no enemies in play currently, so we skip that phase. And then it's upkeep. So if any action has tapped your card, you'll ready it again. Exhausted your card. You'll ready it. You'll reset any actions. After your turn, you'll flip that card over so you know that you've been. So you reset those, ready your exhausted cards, and then you draw a card from your deck, gain a resource, and then you check that you haven't got more than 8 cards in your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're fine. And he's got 5. So that's fine. Then you go into round 2, and you go into the Mythos phase. So Mythos phase means that you place 1 Doom, which is that side, on the agenda. You check to see if the threshold for the agenda has been reached. We've got 1 Doom to the threshold of 3, so we're okay. And then each investigator draws 1 card from the top of the encounter deck. So we draw a card. We've got a swarm of rats. So from that will then get played directly onto that player. It'll come and engage unless it says otherwise. And then we'll draw another card. Right, so this is a treachery card. This is one of the cards I was talking about that's not an enemy. It's something that will have a negative impact on the player. So this goes straight into the threat area, which is above the player. And it gives you an ability. So it means that this player can't play any assets or events until this card is discarded. This card gets discarded at the end of the round. So it's a 1-round negative ability. And then play continues in this fashion until either the act or the agenda has fully advanced, or one of your actions or abilities requires or says otherwise, that the game ends, or if all investigators have been killed, or all investigators have resigned, or again, that's an ability from an act or agenda deck normally. So there we have it. That is Arkham Horror and how to play. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know how you get on playing. Have a lovely day.